The first thing I felt wasn't anger. It was cold. The kind of cold that hits you at midnight in February in Manhattan, when you're standing on the sidewalk in sweatpants and a hoodie, with one duffel bag at your feet and nowhere to go. My sister Tegan stood in the doorway of our family's brownstone on the Upper East Side, arms crossed, face calm, like she hadn't just changed the locks, like she hadn't just thrown my belongings into a bag and left it on the stoop, like this was normal. "You can't do this," I said, teeth chattering. "I just did," Tegan said. Behind her, I could see the warm glow of the foyer chandelier, the Persian rug I'd walked across every day for 28 years, the staircase I used to slide down as a kid, my home. Except it wasn't mine anymore. "Mom and Dad are in the Hamptons for the weekend," Tegan said smoothly, "and when they get back, I'll explain that you left, that you couldn't handle the pressure, that you said some really concerning things and needed space." I stared at her. "No one's going to believe that." Tegan smiled. "They will when I show them the texts." "What texts?" She held up her phone. On the screen was a conversation, my name at the top, messages I'd never sent. "I can't do this anymore. I need to get away. Don't try to find me." "You faked those," I said. "Prove it," Tegan said. And then she closed the door. I heard the deadbolt slide. Click. Final. I stood there for a moment, staring at the brass knocker, waiting for this to feel real. It didn't. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I pulled out my phone. 3% battery, no charger. I tried calling my best friend, Delaney, straight to voicemail. I tried my parents. No answer. I pulled my coat tighter, except I didn't have a coat. Tegan hadn't packed one. Just clothes, a toothbrush, and a framed photo of me and our grandmother. The grandmother whose will was being read next week. The grandmother who owned half of Manhattan. And suddenly it all made sense. Tegan wasn't kicking me out because she hated me. She was kicking me out because she wanted me gone before the inheritance was finalized. If I wasn't living at the family address, if I looked unstable, if I couldn't be reached, maybe she could argue I'd abandoned my claim. Maybe she could take it all. I sat down on the steps, bag beside me, and tried not to cry. Because crying wouldn't change anything, and freezing to death on the Upper East Side wasn't going to prove her wrong. I was about to call an Uber I couldn't afford when a black town car pulled up in front of the brownstone. Sleek, expensive, tinted windows. The back door opened, and a man stepped out. Tall, mid-40s, tailored charcoal suit, salt and pepper hair, the kind of face you see on magazine covers under headlines like Forbes 30 Under 40 or The Man Who Built an Empire. He looked at me, then at my bag, then back at me. "You're Ramsey Holt," he said. Not a question, a statement. I blinked. "How do you—" "Your grandmother," he said. "She talked about you." My chest tightened. "You knew her?" "I worked with her," he said. "Sterling Voss, CEO of Voss Capital Group." I'd heard the name before. Real estate, private equity, billions. He gestured toward the car. "Get in," he said. "I don't—" "You're about to freeze," Sterling said calmly, "and your sister just locked you out of your own home in the middle of the night with no coat and one bag. So unless you have a better option, get in the car." I looked at the brownstone. Dark, silent, locked. Then I looked at Sterling Voss. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. He smiled slightly. "Because your grandmother asked me to, and because I have a job offer you're going to want to hear. If you've ever been thrown out by family and had to choose between pride and survival, drop a comment. What did you do?" "My name is Ramsey Holt. I'm 28 years old. This happened on a Friday night in February in New York City, and it started when my sister locked me out to steal my inheritance. But what I didn't know yet was that Sterling Voss wasn't just offering me a job, he was offering me a way to take back everything Tegan thought she'd won. I picked up my bag, and I got in the car. The inside of Sterling Voss's car smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Warm. Quiet. The kind of quiet that only money can buy. I sat in the back seat with my duffel bag on my lap, trying to not look as lost as I felt. Sterling sat across from me, calm, hands folded, watching me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Where are we going?" I asked. "My office," Sterling said. "You need to get warm, and we need to talk." "About what?" "About what your grandmother wanted me to do if something like this happened." I blinked. She knew Tegan would do this? "She suspected," Sterling said. "Your grandmother was many things, but naive wasn't one of them. She knew your sister had been positioning herself for years, and she knew your parents would look the other way." My throat tightened, because he was right. Tegan had always been the favorite, the one who laughed at our father's jokes, the one who went to charity galas with our mother, the one who knew how to perform. I was the one who asked too many questions, who wanted to work instead of marry, who didn't fit the mold. And my parents had stopped trying to hide their disappointment years ago. "So what did your grandmother ask you to do?" I said. Sterling leaned back. "She asked me to offer you a job," he said, "if you ever needed one." "Why?" "Because she wanted you to have options," Sterling said, "and because she thought you had potential your family was wasting." I looked down at my hands. "I don't understand. I barely knew you existed until tonight." "Your grandmother and I worked together for 15 years. She was one of my first investors. She believed in me when no one else did. And before she died, she made me promise that if your family ever tried to cut you out, I'd step in." "And do what?" "Give you a chance," Sterling said simply. "A real one. Not charity, not pity. A job. With terms and expectations." The car pulled up in front of a glass tower in Midtown. Voss Capital Group. Lit up like a beacon. Sterling opened the door and gestured for me to follow. Inside, the lobby was marble and steel, security at the desk, elevators that moved so smoothly I barely felt them. We went up to the 43rd floor. His office was corner, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, a desk that looked like it cost more than my last car. He poured 2 glasses of water from a filtered pitcher and handed me one. "Sit," he said. I sat. Sterling stayed standing, looking out at the skyline. "Here's the offer," Sterling said. "You work for me. Executive assistant to start. You'll learn operations, strategy, investor relations, deal structure. 6 months. If you prove yourself, you move into a junior analyst role. If you don't, you leave with a recommendation and 6 months' salary as severance." "Why would you do that?" I asked. "Because your grandmother asked me to, and because I don't waste talent." "I haven't worked in corporate. I was finishing my MBA when—" "I know," Sterling said. "Your grandmother told me. Columbia, right?" I nodded. "Then you'll be fine," Sterling said. "The job starts Monday. I'll cover your housing until you're stable. You'll have access to legal counsel if your sister tries anything, and you'll be present at the will reading next week." "How do you know about the will reading?" Sterling smiled slightly. "Because I'm the executor." My stomach dropped. "Your what?" "Your grandmother didn't trust your parents to handle her estate fairly, so she named me, and I take that responsibility seriously." I stared at him. "So you knew this whole time that Tegan was going to try something?" I suspected, but I needed to see what she'd do, and now I know. "And what are you going to do about it?" Sterling set his glass down and looked me directly. "I'm going to make sure she doesn't get away with it, but only if you're willing to fight." I thought about Tegan's smug face, the fake texts, the locked door, the cold. "I'm willing," I said. Sterling nodded. "Good," Sterling said, "because this isn't going to be easy. Your sister has your parents, she has the house, she has the advantage, but you have something she doesn't." "What's that?" "The truth, and me." I spent the weekend in a corporate apartment Sterling kept for visiting executives. 22nd floor, one bedroom, clean white walls and furniture that looked like it came from a catalog. It wasn't home, but it was warm, and it was mine. I charged my phone and finally called Delaney back. "Oh my God, Ramsey, I've been trying to reach you," she said. "Your sister posted on Instagram that you needed space and left town. What's going on?" I told her everything. The lockout, the fake texts, Sterling, the job. When I finished, Delaney was silent for a long moment. "So, Tegan's trying to steal your inheritance," she said slowly. "Yeah. And this billionaire CEO is helping you because your grandmother asked him to." "Yeah. That's insane." "I know. But also kind of perfect," Delaney said, "because Tegan's been doing this to you your whole life." She was right. Tegan didn't just want things. She wanted my things. When we were kids, she'd take my toys and break them, then cry to our parents that I broke hers. In high school, she told my boyfriend I was cheating on him with his best friend. I wasn't, but he believed her. In college, she applied to the same internship I wanted and told the hiring manager I'd already accepted another offer. I hadn't. She got the job. And every single time, my parents took her side. "Tegan's just sensitive," my mother would say. "You need to be more understanding," my father would add. But I wasn't the problem. Tegan was. She couldn't stand me having anything she didn't control. And when our grandmother died 6 months ago, I knew it was only a matter of time before Tegan made her move. Because our grandmother, Margot Holt, had always favored me. Not because I was better, but because I reminded her of herself. Margot built her real estate empire from nothing. She was sharp, fearless, and refused to apologize for taking up space. My parents hated that about her. They thought she was cold, difficult, too much. But I loved her. She was the only person in my family who saw me. And when she got sick last year, it was me who sat with her in the hospital. Not Tegan, not my parents. Me. "They'll come around when I'm gone," Margot had said one afternoon, tubes in her arms, voice weak but steady. "I don't want them to come around," I said. "I just want them to see me." Margot smiled. "They won't. But that's okay, because I see you, and I made sure you'll be taken care of." I thought she meant money, but now I realized she meant Sterling. She'd set up a safety net, a way out, a plan, and Tegan had walked right into it. The next morning, I put on the one professional outfit I'd packed, a black blazer, gray slacks, and heels, and took the subway to Voss Capital Group. Sterling's assistant, a sharp woman in her 30s named Kieran, met me at reception. "You're Ramsey," she said. "Sterling told me to get you set up. Follow me." She led me through glass-walled offices, conference rooms, people on phones and laptops moving fast and focused. My desk was outside Sterling's office, clean, organized, a laptop already waiting. "You'll shadow me for the first 2 weeks. After that, you're on your own. Sterling's schedule is brutal. He doesn't repeat himself, and he doesn't tolerate excuses. You good with that?" "Yes," I said. Kieran studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Good," she said, "because half the people who sit at that desk don't last a month." She wasn't trying to scare me. She was setting expectations, and I respected that. Sterling came in an hour later, coffee in hand, already on a call. He nodded at me as he passed. No smile, no pep talk, just, "You're here, now work." And I did. I took notes, I scheduled meetings, I learned names, deals, terms I'd only read about in textbooks. It was overwhelming, but it was also exactly what I needed, because for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about Tegan.
I was thinking about what came next. That night, Sterling called me into his office. The will reading is Friday. Your parents and Tegan will be there. So will the family attorney. You need to be ready. For what? For them to try to discredit you, Sterling said. Tegan's going to say you abandoned the family. Your parents will back her up. They'll argue you're unstable, that you forfeited your claim. Can they do that? They can try, but your grandmother's will is airtight, and I have proof you were locked out. How? Sterling slid a tablet across the desk. On the screen was security footage, time-stamped, Friday, 11:54 p.m. Me standing on the stoop, Tegan closing the door, the lock turning. Where did you get this? I asked. Your grandmother had cameras installed 2 years ago. She didn't trust your sister, and she made sure I had access. I stared at the screen. So she knew. She knew, and she made sure you'd have what you needed when the time came. I looked up at him. Why are you really doing this? Sterling leaned back. Because your grandmother saved my company when I was 26 and drowning in debt, and because watching entitled people destroy someone who actually earned their place makes me furious. He closed the tablet. Friday, you walk in with your head up. You don't apologize. You don't explain. You just show up. Understood? Understood. Good. Because Tegan's about to learn something your grandmother knew all along. What's that? Sterling smiled. That you don't lock out a Holt and expect to win.
Friday came faster than I expected. I woke up in the corporate apartment, showered, and put on the navy suit Sterling's assistant, Kieran, had ordered for me. Professional. Sharp. Armor. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked different, but because I felt different. Calmer. Steadier. Like I'd finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. Sterling picked me up at 9. We didn't talk much in the car. He was reading emails on his phone. I was rehearsing what I'd say if my parents tried to guilt me, if Tegan tried to play victim, if anyone asked where I'd been. But Sterling had been clear. Don't explain, don't defend, just show up. The law office was in a limestone building in the financial district. Old money, quiet power. The kind of place where deals that shaped the city were made over handshakes and contracts no one ever saw. We walked into the conference room together, and everyone stopped talking. My mother, Cecily Holt, sat at the head of the table in a black dress and pearls, hands folded, face carefully neutral. My father, Brooks Holt, sat beside her, gray suit, jaw tight. And Tegan. She sat across from them, looking perfect as always. Black sheath dress, hair smooth, calm. Until she saw me. Her eyes widened, just for a second. Then she recovered and smiled. "Ramsey," she said softly, "you're here." "I am," I said. I sat down next to Sterling. My mother leaned forward slightly. "Ramsey, sweetheart, we've been so worried. You didn't return our calls. Tegan said you left in the middle of the night without saying anything." I looked at Tegan. She looked back, and I saw it, the flicker of panic. "I didn't leave," I said evenly. "I was locked out." Silence. My father frowned. "That's not what Tegan told us," he said. "I know, but it's the truth." "Ramsey, that's not fair," Tegan said, voice trembling now. "You were upset. You said you needed space. I was just trying to give you what you asked for." "I never asked for space." "You texted me." "No," I said. "You faked texts and locked me out in the middle of the night with no coat and one bag." Tegan's face flushed. "That's insane. Why would I do that?" "Because you wanted me gone before the will reading," I said. My mother's expression hardened. "Ramsey, that's enough," she said. "I don't know what's gotten into you, but accusing your sister is accurate," Sterling said, voice calm and cold. Everyone turned to look at him. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "Sterling Voss, executor of Margot Holt's estate, and the person who has security footage of Tegan locking Ramsey out at 11:54 p.m. last Friday." The room went silent. Tegan's face went pale. There's no," she stammered. Sterling pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. He pressed play, and there it was. Time-stamped, clear. Me standing on the stoop, Tegan closing the door, the lock turning. My mother stared at the screen, my father's jaw clenched, and Tegan looked like she was going to be sick. "This is a misunderstanding," my mother said quickly. "Tegan was protecting the house. Ramsey had been acting erratic." "No," Sterling said, "she wasn't. And this footage will be submitted to the court if anyone tries to argue Ramsey forfeited her inheritance." He closed the tablet. "Now," Sterling said, "let's read the will." The family attorney, a thin man named Howard Pettigrew, cleared his throat and opened a leather folder. "Margot Holt's last will and testament," he began. He read through the standard language, then he got to the assets. "To my daughter, Cecily Holt, I leave my art collection and personal jewelry." My mother nodded stiffly. "To my son-in-law, Brooks Holt, I leave nothing, as he contributed nothing." My father's face turned red. "To my granddaughter, Tegan Holt, I leave the sum of $50,000. Tegan's mouth fell open. "50,000?" she whispered. "And to my granddaughter, Ramsey Holt, I leave the remainder of my estate, including all real estate holdings, investment portfolios, and the controlling stake in Holt Properties, LLC. The room exploded. "That's not possible," my mother said. "It's perfectly legal," Sterling said. "She can't do that," my father said. "She did," Sterling said. Tegan stood up, hands shaking. "This is because of her," she said, pointing at me. "She manipulated Grandma. She spent time with her," I said quietly, "while you were busy pretending she didn't exist." Tegan's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time, not from guilt, from rage. "You don't deserve this," she hissed. "Maybe not, but Grandma thought I did, and that's all that matters." Howard closed the folder. "The estate will be transferred within 30 days. Any contests must be filed within 60. My parents stood. My mother wouldn't look at me. My father glared. And Tegan? She walked out without another word. Sterling and I stayed seated, and when the room was finally empty, I exhaled. "You okay?" Sterling asked. "Yeah," I said. And I was, because for the first time in my life, I'd won.
The inheritance didn't feel real until I saw the numbers. Sterling's legal team walked me through everything the following Monday. Margot Holt's estate was worth $43 million. Real estate across Manhattan, Brooklyn, and the Hamptons, investment portfolios, a controlling stake in Holt Properties LLC, the firm my grandmother built from nothing, and it was all mine. I sat in Sterling's conference room staring at spreadsheets and property listings, trying to process it. "This is too much," I said. "It's exactly what she wanted you to have," Sterling said. "But I don't know how to run a company." "That's why I'm here," Sterling said. "And that's why you're working for me. You'll learn." He slid a folder across the table. "Your grandmother also left instructions," he said, "for you, personally." I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, her handwriting, shaky near the end, but unmistakably hers. "Ramsey, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and it means Tegan tried exactly what I thought she would. I'm sorry I won't be there to see you prove everyone wrong, but I know you will. Don't let them make you small. Don't let them convince you that kindness is weakness, or that ambition is selfish. You are a Holt, not because of your last name, but because you earned it. Build something, protect it, and don't apologize for it. Love, Margot." My throat tightened. I folded the letter and put it back in the folder. "She knew Tegan would do this," I said. "She did," and she made sure you'd have everything you needed to survive it. But surviving isn't the same as winning. Sterling smiled slightly. No, he said, but you're about to do both. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked 12-hour days, learning Voss Capital systems, sitting in on investor calls, reviewing real estate deals. Sterling didn't go easy on me. He expected perfection, and when I made mistakes, he corrected me once and moved on. No hand-holding, no coddling, just expectations, and I met them. But outside the office, things got worse. My parents called twice. I didn't answer. They sent emails asking me to reconsider and think about the family. I archived them. Tegan, on the other hand, went public. She posted on Instagram about how betrayed she felt, how our grandmother had played favorites, how I'd manipulated a dying woman. The comments were brutal. Half the people believed her. The other half called her out for being entitled. But the damage was done. People I hadn't spoken to in years were reaching out, asking if I was okay, if the rumors were true, if I really stolen my sister's inheritance. I didn't respond to any of them, because explaining would have meant defending myself, and I was done defending myself to people who'd already decided I was guilty. Then, 3 weeks after the will reading, my mother showed up at Voss Capital. Security called up to Sterling's office. "There's a Cecily Holt in the lobby," the guard said. "She's asking for Ramsey." Sterling looked at me. "You want me to have her removed?" "No," I said. "I'll go down." I took the elevator to the lobby. My mother stood near the windows, hands clasped, face tight. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. "Hi, Mom," I said. She turned. For a moment, I thought she might hug me, but she didn't. "We need to talk," Cecily said. "Okay." "Not here," she said. "Can we get coffee?" I almost said no, but something in her voice made me stop. She sounded tired, defeated, so I nodded. We walked to a cafe 2 blocks away and sat in the back. My mother ordered tea. I ordered nothing. "I'm not here to apologize," Cecily said. "I didn't think you were." She stirred her tea slowly. "Your father and I are filing a contest against the will." My stomach dropped. "On what grounds?" "Undue influence," Cecily said. "We're arguing that Sterling manipulated your grandmother to leave everything to you." I stared at her. "That's not true." "It doesn't matter if it's true," my mother said. "It matters if we can prove it in court, and our attorney thinks we can." "Why are you telling me this?" Cecily set down her spoon. "Because I want you to settle. Give Tegan half, walk away, and we'll drop the case." "And if I don't?" "Then this gets ugly," my mother said. "We'll drag Sterling's name through the press, we'll subpoena everything, and by the time it's over, you'll have spent more on legal fees than the estate is worth." I leaned back. "You don't actually think you'll win," I said slowly. "You just want to punish me for not giving Tegan what she wants." My mother's jaw tightened. "I want to protect my daughter." "You have 2 daughters," I said. Cecily looked away. "I know you think I chose Tegan, but I didn't. She needed me more. You were always so independent, so sure of yourself. You didn't need me." "I did," I said quietly. "I just stopped asking." Silence. Long, heavy. My mother stood. "Think about it," she said. "You have until Friday to respond." And then she left. I sat there for a long time staring at the table. Then I went back to the office. Sterling was waiting. "What did she want?" he asked. "To threaten me," I said. "They're filing a contest. Undue influence. They want me to settle." Sterling didn't look surprised. "And what did you say?" "Nothing," I said. "But I'm not settling." Sterling nodded. "Good," he said, "because we're going to bury them."
The legal battle started fast. My parents filed their contest the following Monday. Sterling's legal team responded within 48 hours with a counter-motion to dismiss. And suddenly, my grandmother's estate was front-page news. Heiress battle, granddaughters fight over $43 million fortune. Family feud, did billionaire CEO manipulate dying real estate mogul? Sisters at war, the Holt inheritance scandal. I stopped reading after the third article, because the story they were telling wasn't the truth. It was the version my parents wanted people to believe, that I was cold, manipulative, that I'd used Sterling to steal what should have been Tegan's, that Margot had been confused, vulnerable, easily influenced. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. People believed it anyway. Sterling, on the other hand, didn't flinch. Let them talk. We'll win in court. That's all that matters. But it wasn't just court. It was everywhere. My parents hired a PR firm. They started doing interviews, crying on camera about how heartbroken they were, how they just wanted justice for Margot, how they were fighting for family. It was a performance, and people ate it up. Then, 2 weeks before the hearing, something shifted. Delaney called me. "You need to see this," she said. She sent me a link. It was a Reddit thread. "I worked for the Holt family. Here's what really happened." The post was anonymous, but detailed. Someone who claimed to be a former housekeeper at the brownstone had written out everything. How Tegan had faked being sick to get out of visiting Margot in the hospital, how my parents had complained about Margot's controlling behavior, how I was the only one who showed up, how Tegan had bragged to staff about getting the house after Margot died. The post had thousands of upvotes and hundreds of comments. People were starting to see through the PR campaign. I forwarded it to Sterling. His response was immediate. "Sterling, I need to know who wrote this. Can you find out?" I called Delaney. "Can you track down the poster?" She said, "Already did. It's your grandmother's former nurse. Her name's Iris Calhoun. She's willing to testify." If you've ever had to choose between staying quiet to keep the peace or speaking up and risking everything, drop a comment. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Sterling set up a meeting with Iris the next day. She was in her 50s, calm, professional, and very, very angry. "I loved Margot, and watching your family erase her wishes makes me sick. Will you testify?" Sterling asked. "Yes," Iris said. "I'll tell the court exactly what I saw. Tegan didn't visit once in the last 6 months. Your parents showed up twice. You were there every single day." Sterling leaned forward. "They're going to come after you," he said. "They'll say you're biased, that Ramsey paid you, that you're lying." "Let them," Iris said, "because I have the visitor logs, and the hospital has security footage." Sterling smiled. "Then we're ready." The hearing was set for a Thursday morning. I walked into the courtroom with Sterling, Kieran, and a legal team that looked like they'd never lost a case. My parents sat on the other side with Tegan between them. Tegan looked perfect. Black dress, hair sleek, playing the victim. But when her eyes met mine, I saw it. Fear. The judge, a sharp woman in her 60s named Judge Lorraine Vega, called the court to order. My parents' attorney went first. He argued that Sterling had manipulated Margot, that I'd isolated her from her family, that the will was the result of undue influence. It sounded convincing, if you didn't know the truth. Then Sterling's team presented. They showed the visitor logs. They showed emails between me and Margot. They showed hospital footage of me sitting beside her bed, reading to her, holding her hand. And then Iris Calhoun took the stand. Margot Holt was sharp until the very end. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she told me more than once that Ramsey was the only person in her family that deserved her legacy. My parents' attorney tried to discredit her, but Iris didn't budge. And when he asked if I paid her to testify, she looked him dead in the eye and said, "No, I'm here because Margot asked me to tell the truth if anyone tried to rewrite her story, and that's exactly what I'm doing." The courtroom went silent. Judge Lorraine Vega made her ruling 2 days later. The will stands. Contest dismissed. We won. The day after the ruling, I woke up and realized I didn't have to fight anymore. The inheritance was mine. Legally. Permanently. Tegan couldn't touch it. My parents couldn't contest it. And Sterling had made sure every asset was protected. I should have felt relieved, but mostly I just felt empty. Because winning didn't erase what they'd done. It didn't undo the lockout, the lies, the years of being made to feel like I was the problem. It just meant I'd survived. And survival isn't the same as healing. Sterling called me into his office that afternoon. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. He didn't look convinced. "You don't have to be fine," he said. "You just won a legal war against your own family. That's not nothing." "I know." Sterling leaned back in his chair. "So what are you going to do now?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "You have $43 million, Sterling said. A company, properties. You could sell everything and disappear. Or you could build something. What do you want?" I'd been so focused on not losing that I hadn't thought about what came after winning. "I don't know," I admitted. Sterling nodded. "Then take some time," he said. "Figure it out. But don't waste it. Your grandmother didn't leave you this so you could play it safe." He was right. Margot hadn't built an empire by being careful. She'd taken risks, made enemies, refused to shrink, and she'd left me everything because she believed I could do the same. That weekend, I went to the Hamptons, to the estate Margot had left me. It was a sprawling house on 3 acres overlooking the ocean. White walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, a wraparound porch where she used to sit with her coffee every morning. I walked through the empty rooms, running my fingers along the furniture she'd chosen, the books she'd read, the photos she'd kept. And I found something I hadn't expected. A box, tucked in the back of her closet. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me, written over the last 2 years of her life. I sat on the floor and read them one by one. Some were advice, some were stories about her life, some were warnings. Your mother will choose Tegan, not because she loves her more, but because Tegan demands it, and your father will follow because he always has. Don't wait for them to choose you. Choose yourself. People will call you cold when you set boundaries. Let them. Cold is better than destroyed. Build something that outlasts you, not for legacy, but because it's the only thing they can't take away. By the time I finished, the sun had set, and I knew what I was going to do. Monday morning, I walked into Sterling's office with a plan. I want to turn Holt Properties into something bigger. Affordable housing, mixed-use developments, community investment. I want to build the way Margot did, but better. Sterling studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Good," he said, "because I was hoping you'd say that." "You were?" "Your grandmother didn't just leave you money, Ramsey. She left you a platform, and the question was always whether you'd use it. And if I fail, then you fail, but at least you'll fail doing something that matters." I nodded. "When do we start?" "Now," Sterling said. Over the next 6 months, I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I hired a team. I bought land. I met with architects, city planners, community leaders. I learned how to pitch investors, how to negotiate contracts, how to say no without apologizing. And slowly, the company my grandmother built started to shift, from luxury-only developments to something that actually helped people. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't fast, but it was mine. Tegan, on the other hand, disappeared. I heard through Delaney that she'd moved to California, that she'd changed her Instagram to private, that she'd stopped talking about the family entirely. My parents tried to reach out once, a short email asking if we could move forward. I didn't respond, because moving forward didn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It meant accepting that some doors stay closed, and I was okay with that. A year after the will reading, I was standing on a construction site in Brooklyn when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" Ramsey. I froze. Tegan. How did you get this number? I asked Delaney, Tegan said quietly. I told her I needed to talk to you. She said it was up to you. I almost hung up, but I didn't. What do you want? Silence. Then, I'm sorry. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. You locked me out in the middle of winter, I said. You lied to our parents, you tried to steal my inheritance, you dragged me through court and the press, and now you're sorry? Yes, Tegan said, voice breaking. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I ruined everything, but I need you to know that I regret it. All of it. Why? I asked. Why now? Because I lost everything, Tegan said. I lost the money, I lost Mom and Dad's respect, I lost you, and I realized the only person I was really hurting was myself. I didn't respond. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Tegan continued. I just needed you to know that I see it now, what I did, who I was, and I'm trying to be better. Good for you, I said, and I meant it. Not sarcastically, just honestly. I hope you figure it out, Tegan, I said, but I can't be part of that process. I understand, she said softly, and then she hung up. I stood there for a moment, staring at my phone, and I realized something. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel hurt. I just felt free. That night, I met Sterling for dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. How's the Brooklyn project? He asked. On schedule. We break ground next month. Sterling raised his glass. Your grandmother would be proud. I smiled. I hope so. She would, Sterling said, because you didn't just inherit her company, you became the kind of person she always believed you could be. I looked out at the skyline. The city stretched out in every direction, lit up like a promise. She gave me a second chance, I said, and you helped me take it. You did the work, Sterling said. I just made sure you had the tools. If you've ever had to walk away from family to protect your future, or if you've ever rebuilt after someone tried to destroy you, drop a comment. You're not alone, and you're not wrong for choosing yourself. 6 months later, I stood in the lobby of the building my grandmother loved most, the one she'd bought when she was 30 and turned into her first real success. I'd kept it, renovated it, and turned the ground floor into a community center. Free resources, legal aid, job training, a place for people who needed a second chance, just like I had. I put a plaque on the wall, in memory of Margot Holt, who believed that power should be used to build, not to control. I stood there for a long time, staring at her name, and I whispered, I did it, Grandma. I didn't let them make me small. My name is Ramsey Holt. I'm 29 years old, and a year ago, my sister locked me out in the middle of the night to steal my inheritance. But I didn't disappear. I didn't break. I got help. I fought back. And I won. Not because I was perfect, but because I refused to let someone else's cruelty define my future. I don't talk to my parents anymore. I don't talk to Tegan, and I'm okay with that, because some relationships aren't meant to be repaired, they're meant to be released. And the people who love you for real, they'll show up. They'll fight for you. They'll give you a chance when no one else will. Sterling gave me that chance. My grandmother gave me the tools, and I gave myself permission to use them. So if you're reading this and you're stuck, if your family doesn't see you, if they use you, if they make you feel like you are too much or not enough, let me tell you something. You don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them your future. You don't owe them anything. You owe yourself the chance to build something they can't take away. And when they try to stop you, and they will, you look them in the eye and you keep building anyway. Because the best revenge isn't destruction, it's becoming exactly who they said you'd never be.
I walked away from my family to save myself, and I'd do it again, because choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival, and survival is just the beginning.